Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and bishops of Great Millstone who teach and rule well. Salutations to the prophets and beloved brothers. Continue to exhort the hopeful elect in these last days. The title of this epistle is going to be entitled The Passover. We're going to touch on some key verses, go into the spiritual aspects of what the Passover means, and go over the procedures and the steps to make oneself ready for the Passover, for it is a time to be much observed expressly to the 12 tribes of Israel, the congregation of the hopeful elect. And I hope this is edifying in the name of Yahweh Shai. Exodus chapter 12, starting from the top. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So we just observed the new moon, which would be the beginning of the month of Bib, the first day of the year, on the 18th of March. And we are to partake in the Passover on the 15th day of Abib, which would be a full moon, the 15th, and that is going to be coming up on the 1st of April, right? So, continuing on. This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto the congregation of Yasharallah, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if that household be too little for the lamb, let it be to his neighbor next unto his house. Take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish. A male of the first year, ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. That lamb is representative of our Messiah, Yahweh Shai, who was made to be that perfect sacrifice slain. So in the spiritual context of this, we are to observe the Passover and observing what the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, was sent down here on earth, the Word made flesh, for us to partake in his sufferings and to partake in the Passover, to be covered by his blood. That lamb is representative as deliverance, found in Exodus chapter 12, verse 27. And it says, that ye shall say, it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover. That sacrifice of the Lord's Passover is Yahweh Shai, found in John chapter 1. We'll go to John chapter 1 real quick. Yahweh Shai is that lamb. John chapter 1. Verse 29, it says, The next day John seeth Yahweh Shai coming unto him, and saith, Behold, the Lamb of Yahweh, which taketh away the sin of the world. That world being the world of Yasharallah. Back in Exodus chapter 12, picking up at verse 6, it says, And ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Yasharallah shall kill it in the evening. So on this particular day or night, day going into night, on the 14th, is when you have your unleavened bread, your lamb roasted in fire, and those bitter herbs. We'll touch on all these things, but this is the context of what is said for us to partake in. And Yahweh Shai kept the Passover, right? So in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1, it says, To be ye imitators of me. We do as the Messiah has done, right? For this is putting on the image of Hamashiach. Verse 7, And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two posts and on the upper door post of the houses wherein they shall eat it. This is not required in this time. And Yahweh Shai is that bloodshed that is shed for us. Verse 8, and they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire, and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs. That unleavened bread represents affliction, and that is representative in the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy chapter 16 and 3. Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 3, it says, thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. That bread of affliction, that's representative of all the chastisements and the curses that were put upon us. We are supposed to keep this in our mind as we partake in the Passover, because we want to be covered by partaking in eating of the lamb, and that is putting in us that we're eating the Yahweh Shai, and we're purging out the old ways, the leaven of the world, that the impurities. We're purging those things out, because we have to remember that this is the night when Yahweh has sent forth his death angels to smite and to pour out plagues and to rescue the children of Israel out of their captivity and bondage. And we want to be made acceptable in the eyes of Yahweh Shai, to be regathered in this next Exodus, right? So that's the bread of affliction, and the bitter herbs represent hard bondage. That hard bondage is representative in Exodus. Exodus 1. That hard bondage, that bitter herbs, representative of Exodus chapter 1 and verse 14. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. So because we were cast out into the four corners of the earth to serve hard bondage with rigor, and every land that we had been into, this is representative of the Passover meal. And we're supposed to be very observant of not having any leaven within us, any bitterness towards one another, any sin, any leaven, representative of that must be purged out. You cannot partake of the Lord's Passover, Yahweh Shai's Passover, unworthily. You can't be double-minded. You have to be focused and being very circumspect. Verse 9, eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water. That means don't boil your lamb, right? That's unworthy. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire his head with his legs, and with the puritans thereof. So you may not have this ability as of yet to have a full lamb, no broken legs, a male of 1 year old without blemish. Do your due diligence and make yourself acceptable in the eyes of Yahweh Shai by doing what you can. You can go and find those that are observing the Passover that are like-minded, that may have those that may have access to this. And if not, you can go and still find some lamb in the store. Do whatever you can, to show that your willingness to serve Yahweh with Yahweh Shai is worthy. You can go and find recipes to make yourself unleavened bread. If not, second best is to go find something in the stores that don't have leaven in it and still partake of the Yahweh's Passover worthily. Verse 10. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire. Verse 11. And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. Again, this is an example that the Lord's Passover, Yahweh's Passover, it's not a festive party. It's a time to be very circumspect and remembrance and very alert, and to be girded, and to have your shoes on your feet and have your staff in your hand. This is a readiness, making sure you're built up in sound doctrine, having your armor on, your full armor, and your breastplate, and the rod in your hand that represents the rod of correction, your ability to judge righteousness and to rebuke wickedness. This is what a representative in the carnal. That's the outward, having just shoes on your feet and your loins girded. And I have a staff too. It's all physical and spiritual, but more importantly, the spiritual aspects of these things have to be understood. You don't go and smear blood on your door, but by partaking in the sufferings of Hamashiach Yahweh Shai and enduring with much long suffering, the bondage here in modern day Sodom and Egypt, and to sustaining the ways of the world and putting on righteousness, being built up, then that's being covered by the blood. Exodus 12:12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt will I execute judgment. I am Yahweh power. Yahweh is not playing. He's going to make a mockery of all the gods and all the idol worship that you have put in the forefront of your lives and your belief system. He's going to make a mockery of it. He says, I will laugh at your calamities because you have forsaken my ways. One of the ways you have forsaken his ways is by mocking and scoffing at his prophets, those that he had deemed from the foundation of the world the apple of his eye. By casting that understanding behind you, you are in severe judgment. Verse 13, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt, or Mitzrayim. He ultimately decides where you will have your Passover, and that Passover will be a sanctified place for him to pass over. It's not some place where you can have a designated feast in observing the Passover, but he goes and proclaims and chooses the place for you to do these things, right? And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout all your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Yasharallah. More importantly, the spiritual understanding of this is to remove any sins and iniquities. And when you observe what he is saying within the scriptures and putting on those good fruits, those are ways that you purge out the leaven, right? Let's go into real quick 1 Corinthians chapter 5 and 7 and 8. 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verses 7 and 8 says, purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened, as ye are unleavened. For even Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, our Passover, is a sacrifice for us. Verse 8, therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and in truth. He feeds us that bread and that wine and that water. He gives us all these spiritual things for us to be washed in the true baptism, which is the word. All those carnal exterior traditions, they're there to confuse the understanding of the spiritual aspect of what the scriptures say. But we are to partake physically these moeds and practice them according to how our Messiah did it as well. Exodus chapter 12, verse 16. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. There is no work, no nothing to be done on this day. Nothing like that. You can go to Nehemiah chapter 10 and 31. Nehemiah chapter 10. Oops. I gotta find it. Nehemiah chapter 10 and 31. Oh, my tags. Un momento. Nehemiah chapter 10 and 31. I'll grab it. Let's see, 33? 10 and 31. 10 and 31. And if the people of the land bring ware or any victuals on the Sabbath day to sell, that we would not buy it of them on the Sabbath or on the holy day, and that we would leave the seventh year and the exact of every man debt. So there's no going in and out. There's no traveling. There's nothing like that. You will partake in the Passover exactly where he has set his name on, and you are to not buy or sell or do any manner of work. This is a day that he has proclaimed for us to observe throughout all our generations in that fashion. Deuteronomy 16 and 16. Real quick. Deuteronomy, we're still talking about the Passover. Deuteronomy 16 and 16. How are we supposed to observe the Passover? Right? Deuteronomy 16 and 16. 3 times in a year shall all the males appear before Yahweh your power, in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles. And they shall not appear before Yahweh your power empty. So these two feasts, the spring feast and the fall feast, those feasts both fall on the 15th day of that month, which both will be full moon. The 15th day, right? That's a Sabbath. 7 days before that, Sabbath. 7 days before that, Sabbath. 7 days before that, new moon. Right? And you are not to appear before Yahweh your power empty. He has blessed you with many things for you to offer up as a free will offering. And it's a command for you to do these things, not to appear before Yahweh your power empty. Most importantly, your heart posture and observing it, being a new lump, not as the old lump. And ye shall observe, we're back in Exodus chapter 12, verse 17. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. So it's very important that we observe this Passover, because it is the very same time where he has brought the children of Israel out of Egypt, right? It has to be when he says it's to be. It's an appointment, right? Out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day for the month at even. So it's a duration of 1 week from the 15th all the way to the 22nd of that week. Give me 1 second. I think I have something. So, boom. If you see here, 15th of the month, 15th day, full moon, and then you have it on the 22nd. 1 week. 1 week. High day to high day. And then the rest of the week, you can work, you can do those things. Be mindful that you still can't have any leaven in you. You can't have any sin in you. And it's not like you should be having sin in you anyway from the beginning of the Passover and after Passover. This is a there's a set ordinance for you to remove the leaven. Continue to purge day by day by day by day. Fast and pray that you can remove those leavens. Verse 19. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Yasharallah, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. So in this context, this stranger is an Israelite who is estranged from the inherited rights of the land. This is why it has a distinction in this verse here where it says one who is born in the land of Yasharallah. And we are all, every last one of us, we're not in our land yet. Every last one of us is a stranger, a foreigner, a Gentile, until we have identified that we are of the 12 tribes of Yasharallah, partaking in the Passover, so that way we can be redeemed out during the Passover to be brought back into the land, to pass under the rod, to now be partakers of the second covenant, because we're not partaking of the second covenant as of yet. We're still hoping for that. Verse 20 of Exodus chapter 12. Ye shall eat nothing leavened, in all your habitations shall ye eat unleavened bread. Yes, you can sift through your cabinets and you can remove your cereals and anything that may have leavened in it. Again, this is just an outward expression of what should be happening in the spirit, right? Separating yourself from sin, making sure you can atone for all your sins so that way you're not partaking in the Lord's Passover unworthily. Then Mashah called for all the elders of Yasharallah and said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that in it the basin, and strike it on the lintel of the two doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. Right? So you're supposed to be in place, partaking in the Lord's Passover, waiting for instructions. Where we at? For Yahweh will pass through and smite the Egyptians. And when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the two side posts two side posts, Yahweh will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you. And ye shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. You're supposed to always partake into that, right? So we'll stop there and we're going to jump over into Deuteronomy chapter 16, right? So that way we can get some understanding. Deuteronomy chapter 16. You know, we have to be mindful of the afflictions that we have endured here in Sodom and Egypt according to the curses, you know, and we want to be brought out from the bottom and receive the covering first and foremost, and the blessings to come with, right? This is for especially the children of Yasharallah. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto Yahweh your power. For in that month of Abib, Yahweh your power brought thee forth out of Mitzrayim by night. You know, thou shalt therefore sacrifice the Passover unto Yahweh thy power of the flock and the herd in the place which Yahweh shall choose to place his name there. Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. For thou camest forth out of the land of Mitzrayim in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou camest forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, and all the days of thy life. He's telling us to be prepared, be mindful, be watchful, to observe this high feast days. Those who say that the laws were done away with, they don't observe this night. Those of the 12 tribes of Yasharallah, the 2/3 that ultimately will meet their demise here in Sodom and Egypt, they don't observe it because they're following the ways of the world and calling on other deities, which is going to be a stumbling block unto them. This is not, this is a very important and very severe and very serious matter. Verse 4, and there shall be no leavened bread seen in thee in all thy coast 7 days, neither shall there be anything of the flesh which thou sacrificest the first day at even remain all night until the morning. So we are supposed to partake of this. The Passover night is the very important night. I have a recipe here for those who want a very simple recipe for unleavened bread. 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of oil, 1 to 1.5 cup of milk or water, bitter herbs of choice. Mix the flour and salt, add oil, slowly add the liquid, mix well like you're making biscuits, fold in your herbs, and then you can make them into little balls, whatever. I think in a verse it says to make 12 cakes of unleavened. See if I can find that. I don't have it, but there's a verse where it says, to make 12 cakes, unleavened bread. You can make them into little pancake things, and you can fry them. You can fry them, and that's your unleavened bread. And you can have that for a period of 1 week, right? So where there's will, there's a way. 7 weeks shalt thou number, begin the number of 7 weeks. Okay, so we'll stop right there, and then we'll move into Leviticus chapter 23, which goes over a lot more of the Moeds, but we're touching just on the Passover right now. So you have your recipe, you got the spiritual understanding of what the Passover represents. Also, there's some key things that you should know about the Passover, right? Why it's sanctified, why it's holy, why it's clean. Exodus 19 and 15 real quick. Exodus 19 and 15. Exodus 19 and 15. So, I won't grab that one yet. We'll go to Leviticus chapter 15 first. So this is in accordance to being clean and sanctified. Also, not having intercourse or sex, right? This is to be sustained from that, right? Because you are observing a very kodash and holy atmosphere. Leviticus chapter 15, right? There's some that ask questions about, what you can do on the Sabbath, and the Sabbath is holy and sanctified. There's none of that. There's plenty of time to do all that stuff, but you dedicate yourself at least one day out of the week. Leviticus chapter 15. Leviticus chapter 15. I didn't have all this last Passover, so I'm happy to bring it out. Leviticus chapter 15, starting at 16. No sex on the Passover. And if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in the water and be unclean until even. So if you partake in this activity, especially during the Passover, you are making yourself unclean in these set times that you're supposed to partake in an environment, in a setting that's supposed to be clean. And in verse 17, and every garment and every skin whereupon is the seed of copulation, he's talking about semen, shall be washed within the water and be unclean until even. The woman also with man shall lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until even. So you're saying, oh, well, the Passover is, happens at even, we can do whatever we want on this day here. And if you want to take a gamble, then go ahead. That's on you. But you've been warned. You got the precept there. And, right, because we have to bear good fruits. We have to bear good fruits. We're going back into Leviticus chapter 23. And we're talking about the Passover, right? When to observe it, how to observe it, what to eat, what the meaning of all the things are. Leviticus chapter 23. We'll start at verse 2. It says, Speak unto the children of Yasharallah, and say unto them, concerning the feasts of Yahweh, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, holy, set apart, Kodash, right? The children of Israel, they were told in Exodus chapter 19 not to come at your wives, right? They were told not to come at your wives. What do you think that meant? That meant not to, fornicate. Exodus 19 and 15, it says, And he said unto the people, Be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. And then it goes on to proclaim that Mashal, the one that Yahweh has set up to be the anointing vessel to speak his word unto the children of Israel. This is supposed to be understood. Verse 3 of Leviticus chapter 23, it says, 6 days shall work be done, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest and a holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of your power in all your dwellings. These are the feasts of Yahweh, even the holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. In their seasons. It's an appointment. It's on a specific day, and it happens to fall on a full moon, the 15th day of the month, at Abib, the first month. And the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahweh's Passover. You have to know when the first day of the month is, right? The first day of the year, you have to know these things. How you identify them. How do you identify them? In order to understand when to keep the 15th day of that month, the Passover, because it's a very important day. How are you lining these things all up? It's substantiated by using the moon. Genesis chapter 1 verse 14 goes into that. He sets up these luminaries to be an observance of days, times, moeds, and seasons. Go into it, you'll get the understanding. Leviticus chapter 23 verse 6, and on the 15th day of the same month, it doesn't, nowhere in the scriptures do you read about a moon day, a Tuesday, all these days of the weeks. They're gods. They're I believe they're Greek gods. So when you observe these days of the weeks, you're actually observing that deity and partaking in the Sabbath on those deities' days. Nowhere in the scripture do you read anything about observing that, but he gives us numbered days according to the phases of the moon. Leviticus chapter 23 and 6, and on the 15th day of the month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. In the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh power 7 days. In the seventh day is a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work. Praising him is an offering. Crying out to him, fasting, is an offering to Yahweh, your power. Observing all his ways, teaching what he commands us to teach in truth and sincerity, with fear and reverence, is an offering unto him. You're making your body a living sacrifice. Keeping the commands is a sacrifice, because you don't choose to do what you want to do. You want to choose what he wants you to do. That's why it's a sacrifice. Verse 8, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. In the seventh day is a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work. That is the 15th day and the 22nd day. No servile work. High holy days and in the middle of the week, you can go and work. You can do those things. If you can get off on the high holy days, fantastic. If not, do what you can. Use wisdom. Verse 9. And Yahweh spake unto Mashal, saying, Speak unto the children of Yasharallah, and say unto them, when ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and you shall reap the harvest of thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priests. So this is going to go into the fall feast as well, but we're going to stay on the Passover. And I pray this was edifying, because going into the Pesach, we are to be very mindful and circumspect and examine ourselves, to be made worthy and counted worthy, so we can be passed over in the times of judgment, because we're going to need every last bit of protection and provision that he is able to and willing to provide for us, if we endure until the end. So I pray that this was edifying. Until the next time, Shalom.